A 10 hut. Ooh.
Welcome. Episode 106. Discipline.
Going serious this time.
Yeah, going serious. I like your look though. I like the look.
Thank you, sir. You too.
Yeah, disciplined look. Yes. Well, I must say, I was not disciplined in bringing the correct outfit.
That's true.
Two weeks in a row now. 2 weeks in a row. But Kyrin has got himself down pat, which is good. Discipline today. We're going to be talking about some discipline.
Yep.
The definition of it.
So probably be mostly about self-discipline, I imagine.
Yep.
But a little bit. I've got a couple of different notes on just discipline in general.
Yep.
Especially of children.
Ooh, okay. I'm keen to hear that. I've got a couple of notes on what can you do to be more disciplined. There's not just a airy-fairy, just a couple of scientific things, what they say.
Yep.
They'll help you be more disciplined.
Okay.
And I reckon I want to chat into what are you the most ill-disciplined at some point. So,
all right, so let's kick us off with some immortal moments.
Yeah, me immortal moment. I'm going to get started. And I wrote this down last week and I really enjoyed it. Do what is right. Don't let your emotions falsify your intent.
Okay.
Do what is right. Now, I did 10 kilometers a couple of days ago. Woo! So finally, if you've been following my trials and tribulations of running, I've attempted to do 10 kilometers twice, I think. And both times it just...
Yeah, I think twice now.
It was more a reason of I just didn't give myself enough time. And maybe if I think back, maybe I did that purely so I wouldn't be able to do it either. So that I would have to be forced to get to 6 or 7 Ks and then not do anymore. So I gave myself enough time. There was no excuses. There was a bit of walking in there, but it was done. But doing what's right, my emotions almost falsified it. Always. I think I've talked about this in the past where those first few seconds of running and just beforehand, my emotions and trying to control my decisions going, you don't need to do this. You shouldn't really do it. And in fact, I told you I was going to go run in the afternoon the previous day.
Yep.
And I actually ran the following day in the morning.
That's true.
Because I was late at work. There was all these things that sort of impeded me from going. And it almost started to think to myself, it's fine. I won't get it done in the month. I'll do it next month. No. Don't let your emotions falsify your intent, the immortals.
Okay, there you go. All right, so there's my one. There are more quotes about discipline than anything else. That's because disciplined people actually go out, do shit, and make quotes. I was looking. I didn't have anything particular for me that I wanted to call out.
Yep.
A quote, anything that was struck out me. So I was like, all right, I'll see what kind of quotes are out there. I might steal one, might modify it, and just, good Lord, there was a whole lot.
There's a lot of them.
There was a lot of quotes out there. So I was just more blown away by the volume of quotes rather than the actual messages per se. And I just thought, you know what? This is because disciplined people, they go out,
they create,
they do stuff, and then they make quotes.
Yeah, they do things. No, that's good. Let's get into the definition.
Before why did you want to choose discipline? It was your choice.
Well, first of all, it begins with D.
Yes.
So it's as we've talked about, our
ABCD.
themed ones, A, B, C, D. And we've probably touched on this in a few conversations, and we haven't really gone deep into the actual specific topic of discipline. Maybe the way that we engage with discipline, because mine's, I'm going to say off the bat, probably different to yours. And in some ways, mine's very extreme. In other ways, it might not be. So I'm interested to see what your ill-disciplined ways are. And when I actually thought about it, it was, okay, let's have a bit of a look for myself. What are the things that I'm not very good at being disciplined at? Because I know already there's some things that I've got very good discipline for. So that's probably the main reason, and to have a conversation around it.
All right, let's you kick us off.
All right, define. Now I've found a couple of different definitions. If I tell you, to most people, what is discipline? I think straight off the bat you'd say, look, it's like a habit. It's the ability to continuously do something the right way. So a few of the ones that I pulled out: the practice of training people to obey rules or a code of behavior, using punishment to correct disobedience. So this is an interesting one because we talked about self-discipline, and one of this definition is much more external. It almost made me think Gulag, Auschwitz style sort of discipline where it's punishment. It's bringing you into a regime of what they want you to do. So, there's obviously different definitions. I'm thinking we're going to be probably talking more the self-discipline.
Yeah.
But, we'll see where that gets us. The other couple of discipline definitions I got is discipline means abstaining from pleasure if it gets in the way of progress.
Okay.
And this one's from Jocko. I was like, okay, I have to get a definition from Jocko. And this was from, I think, episode 16, like one of his very first ones. Discipline is taking the uphill road to do what is right. That's another one from him. So that was sort of the definition of it. And it actually, when I was looking at the descriptions of it all, the external one is what drew me a little bit because, it was totally around using punishment to correct disobedience and everything else that you think like, oh, okay. No, you don't want that.
Yeah, well, that's a pretty standard one. If you think about, disciplining a child, disciplining a dog, disciplining someone who's done something wrong, the whole justice system, discipline is exactly what it was just there. So, I would get on board with that. But as you mentioned, we're probably going to talk more about the self-discipline. So it's worth talking about at some point, but most of the convo will be focused on that.
Well, here's, I think, a good place to start us off.
Yeah, I just want to get through the etymology.
Oh, yes, etymology.
So it comes from Latin disciplina.
Disciplina.
Although I don't know how to say, I'm not sure what the Latin accents are. We probably should have covered that. In our accent episode, go back 4 episodes, I think. Instruction given, teaching, learning, pupil, and followers. So it's more about the aspect of people giving advice or rules, and then the follower, the pupil, the disciple following it. And you were talking about disciple just before. So, that comes from that same thing.
Yeah, okay. All right. So it's much more externally orientated than it is when we think about the self, but that's why it's put self-discipline behind it.
And then when you think about it, you don't really know yourself a lot of times. It's almost like there's 2 voices inside of your head, or multiple voices where it's one saying do this, one saying not do that. So it's sort of, a little bit equivalent as well.
Okay. All right. Best way I think to kick us off is on a sliding scale. What do you think of discipline? Do you think it's like it's a must-have to have in your life across everything?
Okay, just the concept.
Yeah, just the concept of it. Do you agree with the concepts and do you apply it everywhere?
I wouldn't say it's something I think about often. I think I tend to. Probably because it is that sort of negative terms, like forcing yourself to do something. I don't usually like to think of things in that way. Yeah. So I probably think of it more the same sort of concept, but in different ways, I guess. So for me, I wouldn't say I think about it that much. Yep. That being said, if I was ill-disciplined in just general, that would probably be pretty bad. I don't think that would work out well for my life. Yep.
But I remember we were talking about this a while ago around Jocko's whole thing of discipline equals freedom. And you were like, I don't know. Yeah. You're a little bit iffy about that. Why do you reckon it made you iffy?
Yeah, just because it's couched in the negative, I think. Okay. Why talk about things negatively in that way when you can put it in a different way? You can make it sound better. I think, if you're trying to communicate things, it's probably better to have a more optimistic viewpoint, a more... Yeah, it just for me, something about it I dislike.
Yeah, okay.
I dislike.
Because for me, whenever I think of it, and I read the definition of punishment, correct disobedience, and I think it can have definitely that connotation to it. But I would then see personally discipline as something totally positive in a way of almost in the side of habits, rituals, putting it in place so that you can continue to doing something and in turn able to, free yourself up to go and do everything else that you want to.
Yeah. See, for me, I wouldn't even call a habit having discipline because that's just something automatic. You don't even have to really think about it. That's what a habit is. It's a routine thing. I would say a discipline is when you don't have the habit and you're forcing yourself into the habit in a sense.
Yeah, okay.
That's how I more think of it. So it's always going to be a negative.
So for you, here's an item, right? What am I good at from a discipline perspective? So this is, again, we're not talking habits. From a discipline, I would say fitness. Some sort of fitness, gym, specifically gym. Because obviously if I say fitness, I might be ill-disciplined more so when it comes to, say, running. Because I'm not as much of a fan of it or something that's cardiovascular. But if it's to do with lifting weights... sign me up. I'll be disciplined. And it won't matter if I'm tired, if I'm hungry, if I don't really want to go. It doesn't matter. That doesn't even come into the equation. The workout's gonna happen. Yeah. If I've chosen to do undo though. Do you think that aspect of discipline is a good or bad thing to have?
forcing yourself to do something, even though you don't want to in the moment.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, life is made up of that. I'm 100% on board with the delayed gratification. Yeah. So those tests and things where they give kids marshmallows and they say, if you wait 15 minutes, you get a second marshmallow. And then the kids who did that, 30 years later, no matter what level of success, how you measure success, they did better than the kids who just instinctively, as soon as the guy left the room, just
smash it down. Yeah. Okay.
So, and that pretty much is discipline, right? Delayed gratification. You're putting off pleasures you could have right now for a certain or even uncertain time in the future.
Do you reckon it is? Because when I even think about it, for fitness, I can imagine it because you're delaying gratification in the sense of you're going to be stronger in 10 years or you're going to be fitter and healthier in 10 years. But you can have discipline about certain things and even knowing completely that it's not going to help you any one bit, and you can still be disciplined enough to do so. So would you consider, say, a Buddhist who is super disciplined and disciplined in the way that he's going to force himself every morning to go and do something every single time, and it's not even for the purpose of being delayed gratification, it's just a sense of, yes, I've got to do this is part of what I must do for my tradition or anything, I have to do this?
Yeah, well that's the other part of it, doing the things that you don't want to do but you think they'll still be good in general. Yeah, I think it encompasses both of those.
Yeah.
And that was probably one of my notes. Let me find where it is. It's sort of like, going between the two. So it's forcing yourself to do things that you don't want to do, but you think are good for you, and then stopping yourself from doing things that are bad for you, but that you want to do. So 2 examples here.
Yeah.
One is going to the gym and doing fitness. It's probably not something you want to do.
Yep.
But you force yourself to go and do it because it's good for you. And then eating sugar, which is bad for you. You want to do it, but you have to have the discipline to stop yourself. So there's 2 different things there, and it's probably worth at some point splitting them up and talking about them separately because they are
there are 2 different things. That's a good point. So let's just go with the first point of discipline things. So obviously for me it's fitness.
Yeah.
Do you have similarly any other different ones? So you have that sort of discipline where it's things that it's not like you really want to do them, but it's going to be good for you that you still do.
Like everything I do.
Yeah. Okay.
Breathing, the Spanish. To caveat for people, breathing Kyrin doesn't mean just like his general breathing that he has to think about. Yeah, every breath for me. My life is so shit. Every breath is a discipline to.
This is your Wim Hof ones.
My Wim Hof breathing, which is sort of like meditation. So that for 20 minutes in the morning. Yes, it's sometimes like 20 minutes. I want to be doing something else.
Yeah.
I've got videos to edit. I've got other things to do. But no, it'll be like, no, okay.
So for people, even me or other people included, you hit that point where it's like decision point, where you either go and do it or you don't do it. What's the thing that you have that helps you to trigger that discipline to go, okay, no, I am going to do that?
There's so many things, man. It just varies based on the morning. Some mornings it's easy. I just do it and it's done. It's like, and then some mornings.
What about the days that it's the absolute hardest?
Yeah. So the hardest, I'll be thinking about my sort of daily checklist, and I'll be going, I have to put a no. I don't want to do that. I'd rather have all greens if I could. There's other times where it'll be a goal, such as I had for the last month, which was to do 4 45-minute breathing sessions. And so it's like coming onto a Saturday, I don't really want to do this. No, I need to do this. Otherwise, I'm going to have to do it in the future, and it's going to be even more annoying. So there's a couple of like, I guess, tricks and tips that, I've just developed over the years to do that. Something similar for you as well?
Something similar. And I was trying to just think what's the best way to just generalize it for more people, but I think it's you either have it's almost the dangling carrot or you have the stick behind a lot of discipline. I know Tim Ferriss, and that's predominantly where I've heard this, and a couple of others where, you can use the whole, I think there is still, I don't know if the website still exists, one called Stick, STIICK, I think, .com. And you pay $100, and it will be given away to the worst place you can think of, or the worst charity that you can think of if you don't reach something. And so that'll make sure that, if you say, I'm going to do 30 days of Wim Hof breathing, and you put $100 on the line that you're going to lose if it doesn't happen, and on the 17th day you really don't feel like it, then you can go back to that and go, yeah, damn, I don't want that to happen. But me personally, for gym and fitness, it's interesting because I no longer have anything that's pushing me to say, oh, I've got to go and reach a certain goal. I don't have something else, maybe from what I was probably trying to achieve when I was in fitness, to be disciplined to get there. I reckon if I can imagine from the very beginning, probably 3 or 4 years in, I achieved what I wanted to do. I was the size I wanted, the strength I wanted, fine. So to still have the discipline, I think our challenges, our yearly challenges, plus having monthly goals and my writing of my monthly fitness plan help in making sure that on the days that you wake up and you're super tired or you don't want to go and do it, or it's a late night and you've got all these other stuff and it's the last thing you'd rather want to do, you can refer back to that and go, okay, it's kind of external to all of your emotions and decisions, and there's that I've written down at some other time for a certain reason that's going to go and make me do it. So that's, I think, for the things that is going to be good for you, that sort of defining it and being able to refer to it, I think it's a good way to be disciplined against that.
Yeah.
So So what about the opposite? So the other one. So this is the things that are good, you enjoy them, but you probably shouldn't have too much.
Yeah.
So this is in the sugar side of things.
Yeah. Well, I mean, sugar for me has been the main one over the years. I think everything else has been, I'm relatively balanced with, as far as nutrition wise, as far as what type of media I consume, what type of, I guess the classic vices that are all gluttony. Never really been that big of a food person. What are the other vices? Envy. Yeah, I don't really care. Pride. I have actively worked just forever on diminishing whatever it is. I'm very self-deprecating to a bad point in the past. What are the other vices? Are there envy, anger? Anger. I'm just not an angry person. So I think I've thankfully not had a lot of the vices, and then the classic, alcohol, drugs, and sex. Just no. It's nothing's ever drawn me in so deeply that I'm going to do it. So probably for me, the one thing I have struggled to give up has been sugar. If you just listen back to some of the old episodes, got a classic me arriving in a random town in Mexico late at night, and then I'm just walking around
trying to
10 p.m. trying to find somewhere that's open to get a sugar hit.
So
silly.
So again, how do you do? Let's go with the absolute worst day where you're really craving sugar and you really know you probably shouldn't have so much. Is there something that you're trying to put in place there?
See, I don't even think that's the best way of thinking about it, because I very rarely have those types of days. So I think for me, it's best to talk about the gradual process that it took, where I was saying, I have to have sugar every single night for dessert, to the point where it's okay, no, I can go without if I need to. And I have gone without for periods of time. I think that process was setting goals was probably the most important. Well, number one, I guess, identifying that it was bad for me. So I started to get some inklings, hearing about different podcasts, people talking about sugar as being, extremely detrimental, and looking at the amount I ate by calorie tracking and whatnot. So just getting just the data in first. So knowing 25% of your calories are coming from dessert, even more.
Dang.
Okay, that's probably something you should look at, Kyrin, because that's a lot. That's a lot. So identifying that, and then also realizing okay, I think this is something I need to address, not just putting it off. It was sort of at the back of my mind, niggling a little bit, those one where it's oh, I should do that. Sort of the equivalent of oh, I should go out and mow the lawn. Sort of that, but through an active process, I was no, bring it to the surface.
Got to put something.
Bring it to the surface. So identifying it first, and then going, okay, this is actually something I need to fix. And then having those moments, like in Mexico, where it was just going, okay,
I know, this is too much.
So having those, then I think setting the goals over the past couple of years has been very helpful. So especially the monthly goals, where I would say, okay, this month I'm not eating any sugar. So I ate apples, so I had fructose
Restriction
sugar.
of sugar.
Yeah, sugar in the sense of like chocolate and white sugar. That's obviously in a dessert type thing. That helped just being able to like lead up to it, I guess. And now it's like to the point where I still need to keep on top of it because I will gorge if I don't keep on top of it.
Yep.
So, for example, this yearly goals of the sort of 12-month eating challenges in a sense that I've set myself, or 12 months of, okay, for this month I'm going to do this. 6 of them are either like 0% sugar, 10% or 20%, like restricting myself to certain levels and just seeing how I go there.
Yeah.
So I think, and then as far as discipline, usually if it's something like that and I say I'm going to do it, I'll do it. So I don't struggle too much with that. It's not like the chocolate in the cupboard is, really tempting me this time. No, that's,
you'll just be like, okay, no, it's whatever.
For me, it's like getting, I think because like with our goals, the way that you and I do it, we're pretty strict with it. Like it's not, you have to have a really good reason to not
deviate away from it.
And just because one night I sort of felt like it, that's not good enough. It like doesn't really even enter in the mind.
Good.
So for me, if someone was asking how do you get disciplined in that sort of level where you've got a vice, you've got something that you really enjoy doing, you probably shouldn't do it as much, and tempering it down, doing that, setting goals, identifying it, setting a goal, and then sticking to it. And then there's all the other tricks and tips with that, to make it easier. Don't leave a full cheesecake in your fridge, and because it's just going to be staring at you for the full month.
Exactly. Yeah. And I was just going to say that because, especially with food. So for me, one of the bits I was thinking, where am I really ill-disciplined? And it would be if I was presented with a bowl of food
and saying half of it or 3/4.
That's not happening.
Yeah,
I'm eating the whole thing. That's what's going on.
Yeah, I feel that.
If I open a packet of chips,
they're gone.
The chip is gone. You're not leaving half the chips. That's not happening.
Yeah.
And that's rooted with just how I used to eat well back when I was young. If I had to, if we set a goal and said, nope, you have to do that. Okay, cool. Then it's external. It removes almost a choice from yourself and it goes elsewhere. The discipline there is obviously, there's a punishment aspect to it for us in the sense of when we do our monthly goal reviews or ourselves we're talking about it or looking at it, we go, nope, didn't achieve this because I decided for 2 days to eat like a pig or do whatever, right? So that's a punishment that we inflict on ourselves. It isn't, huge, but it is an incentive for us to actually go ahead and follow through. So that's a discipline that we can apply there ourselves. Yeah. So for food, I was going to say that. For my other one of what I was saying, discipline, running. Dang, because I hate running. I hate running.
It's so funny because you used to play soccer, so
and I've said this before. It's when we played soccer or rugby or anything, the running around kind of disappeared to me. It was just all about the game, but specifically running for the intent of running, I just find it so not boring, but it's just like I almost think to myself, I could be spending this time better elsewhere.
I would even have a challenge for you, which is to run without listening to podcasts or anything. Just
exactly, yes. So that I'd just be like, oh man, no. Yeah. Although I have done it a couple of times for not obviously 10 kilometers, but I do recall before I used to play touch footy matches, I would used to kick the footy just back and forth on an oval without headphones and whatever. Yeah, literally. But I still was kicking footy, right? So
now people just imagine Juan here. He doesn't have a friend with him. He's just kicking a ball from one side to the other, running after.
And the reason, this is interesting. So it's a side story, but what I would used to do, and I started saying to myself, oh, I'm doing it because I'm warming up. Because I was trying to get injured playing around. So imagine our game was at 7:10 p.m. There was a couple of fields there where we played. And I started going, okay, I'm going to get there an hour earlier and kick the footy around and run around and I'll be warm for the game, right? So sure. But it ended up kind of evolving into this, I really enjoy kicking the footy more than anything. And I would be getting there 2 hours earlier running. I remember running 12, 13,000 steps before the game and then being like, okay, time to play the game and already being tired. So yeah, I did enjoy it. Did enjoy kicking the footy. But still, my mind wasn't on running. But that was without music, I guess, at that point. But yeah, if you had to tell me that we had to go do the marathon with no nothing, no music, I think if I thought about it right now, I'd say, nah, I'm not going to do it.
That's
I almost
funny.
feel it's worthless. But if it had to be done,
Most of them suggest not wearing earphones.
not wearing anything.
Yeah. Because I think it's more of a courtesy thing. You're just unaware of all the other people running around you and whatnot.
There you
go. Sensors a little bit alert.
Well, I'll be 100% running behind everybody, so there won't be anyone around me. So it'll be easy. There'll be no one around me. So okay, a couple of other ways.
Why not out in the front?
Hey?
Why not out in the front?
Oh,
You're limiting yourself.
Well, I'm going to say
beliefs right here, people.
that is true. So what Kyrin's called out is that he's going to be in the front, running with a 2 hour, 40-minute marathon paces.
I'm not the one talking shit like that.
So what do you reckon when we do our marathon? Are you going to be at the front of the pack, the middle of the pack, or the back of the pack? I don't even know what a middle of the pack is in marathon running.
When I was looking at the graphs, I think I think middle of the pack, just the varied range of all the people. There's going to be like kids doing it. There's going to be old ladies doing it. There's going to be whatnot. No, the middle of the pack would probably be like, I don't know, 5 hours, 6 hours.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, then I'll say 42%.
I'd say in like 30, the top 30%.
Right. Well,
that's what I'm hoping for, I guess.
Couple of notes that I pulled out of ways to be disciplined. So this is still in the self-discipline range.
Yep, nice.
Removing temptations. So I was going to say just self-control is often the easiest if it's literally not there. So when it comes to food or a couple of other things that are not good for you, just completely removing them altogether. So not having them there. If it's to do with food, if it's to do with sex or drugs, obviously trying to get rid of that. If it's to do with anger or emotions, almost thinking about, sometimes just removing the people that are triggering that. Again, you're the one reacting to it, so it's still on you. So it doesn't matter what people are putting on you as an action, it's your reaction that matters. But if in terms of you to improve and whatever else, you can remove that intention of dealing with that really annoying coworker by trying to go in through someone else or moving teams or something, but still working on this on yourself. That's a part of discipline.
Goddamn Tina.
Goddamn Tina. Yeah. Another one, eating regularly and healthily. So this one, which I was a little bit like, what? But studies have shown that low blood sugar often weakens a person's resolve.
Yeah. So I guess that one's getting into the willpower sort of range, I guess. So what are your thoughts of that with regards to discipline?
Ooh.
Do you sort of take the view that each day you have a certain amount of willpower, and each time you waste your willpower, your discipline in a sense on something, that it makes it harder for you. You drain out, and then at the end of the day you potentially miss things, i.e. the Steve Jobs who only wore a certain color of turtleneck because he didn't want to have that decision in the morning of picking a certain type of clothes, and then it's like, okay, that's one part of my willpower gone for the day because I used it on something that doesn't matter in the end.
Yeah, nah, that's an interesting one. I think I don't so much believe that totally. So I think it does make it easier. So if you had your clothing and what you eat and everything else like that scheduled out, you don't have to even worry about it, then your willpower, specifically your willpower, can be spent on those points everywhere else. And the more you dwindle it down, the harder it becomes. But even if you go a whole day making decisions and everything, yes, it is harder, but then there's a discipline that comes into play that even when you have basically no willpower, you can still have the discipline to go and do something. So I think they're slightly different. I'm just trying to understand how to probably differentiate them. Because with discipline, you can have zero willpower. Like you can have zero willpower to go to the gym. Say if right now we're doing this podcast and imagine you were tired. I don't know, you spend 12 hours at the beach and you have just zero willpower to go. Right now you're like, nope, I want to just go lay down. I don't see myself doing it. But if you've imposed on yourself, from your monthly goals that, nope, you're going to go gym and it's no longer ticking the box. It's you're going to give away all your money to, I don't know, whatever, the worst charity you can think of. I think at that point, discipline's going to kick in and go, nope, that's a punishment I cannot live myself with. I'm going to go and do this, even though I've got no willpower. But is it a case that it boosts your willpower because of the discipline? I don't know. I don't know how I'd explain that. But there is a slight difference that I can't put my finger on it.
Okay, I sort of see it in terms of Well, yeah, for me, probably willpower and discipline are basically the same thing, interchangeable.
Yep.
So in that example you mentioned, you're at the beach, you go do all these things, and you're just drained. There's nothing left, there's zero. That's almost, I guess, that's why you'd create a system where it'll have like an external factor, or it's almost like you've saved up willpower from another day through effort or whatnot. You've put it into this website saying, hey, I'm going to commit to this. And then that's the thing that sort of triggers you. It's like giving you some willpower or some discipline in a sense.
Yeah, okay.
So that's probably how I'd see it. I think it's useful to think of it in that way. Yep. I've found it pretty useful, I guess, I'll be able to speak a bit more about this, I'm hoping, in the next month, because I'm really trying to get like a solid morning routine. Just a morning routine. I'd like a daily one, but I think just with the way things are at the moment, all the things I'm doing, it's too hard to schedule out. Do the 10th minute, every 10th minute, like, or every half an hour, this is what I should be doing. But I think I can nail down, maybe like the first 4 hours of my morning and get that really tight, and then just hope though it'll have like knock-on benefits
as you go along the day. Yep.
So yeah, I might be able to speak more about that because if I do that, that would essentially be taking a lot of the willpower or discipline that I'm using in the morning at the moment, chucking that, like setting that aside because it's all automatic, and then all of that I have in the afternoon to make better decisions with regards to, okay, should I be editing now, or should I be looking for another interviewee? Should I be doing this?
Like, exactly what you should be doing.
Yeah.
One of the things that, I'm just thinking another one, the difference between discipline and willpower is willpower fluctuates depending on the day.
Okay.
Would you agree with that?
Yeah, probably. Yeah,
probably
if you have a really bad sleep, you wake up.
But discipline wouldn't.
Okay.
So if you ask someone, I'm trying to differentiate. If I said to you, are you disciplined to go to the gym? Like, it's a yes or no. And by the way that I'm holding it, that doesn't change. Like, if you're disciplined at something, that continues to be disciplined until you're not disciplined anymore to do so. But with willpower, there is the variation of, you have a very big variable of willpower. You can have very high if you're in a really good mood, or if you're in a really shitty mood, you have terrible willpower and you're going to get into a fight. But if you're disciplined, it's not a variable. It's not a wavy, scalable thing. It's a yes or no. You're either doing it or you're not doing it.
Yeah, okay.
Kind of point.
Yeah, that's a good point. So maybe it's like, if you're still using like the tank of fuel analogy, maybe discipline's that thing that's there, the baseline level all the time. Like, it's always at sort of 20% or whatever.
Yep.
And then the willpower that can fluctuate all the way up to 100, or sometimes it'll be at like 21%, like it's only an extra 1%.
Yeah, because where it gets to its discipline seems more rigid in the sense of, if I say, yeah, are you disciplined to go to the gym? Yes, no. But then maybe willpower takes over and it's, you don't just go to the gym. You go to the gym and go and do all these other things because you feel good. So, okay, that's beyond and above discipline. But discipline is that minimum level that you impose on yourself, and then willpower can vary.
Yeah, okay. I think that's a useful way of thinking about it. I've got one for you.
Yes.
So do you think it's harder, so we mentioned this just before, is it harder to moderate a pleasure or to cultivate, habitualize a dislike? So is it harder in general, do you think, to cut out the sugar, or to add, so to cut out something or to add something?
For me, it's cut out. Yep. Easily. And the reason I say that is, when it comes to something that I enjoy, I'll be overly committed to jumping into it. So I've seen that myself in lots of things, relationships, business ideas that I have, shares that I really like. It's not that I'm not just, I'll make a line of, can I be disciplined to get into it? Yes. And I'll just go even further beyond. It's almost that I've got to get disciplined to not go too far. I've got to tell myself, hey, don't go to the gym 10 times a week. Like, only go 6 or go 7, relax, rest. So I'd say that the harder for me would actually be trying to cut out of portions.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. See, I asked that, but I hadn't even really thought about it for myself. I would say probably the cutting out things.
Okay.
But that's just because, the one that I've had, which is really cutting out sugar.
Yep.
That's been like the real main one that I think I've had in my life, man. I don't think there's much where I'd say I've really struggled with, like, I go to the extremes on. Most of the time I'm sort of in that middle balance.
Yep. So sugar does it for you.
Yeah, that was the one. So I guess with that one, maybe it's just because it's, the only one. But maybe not as well, because I've struggled just as much when I was socially anxious, and I realized like, okay, you need to go out and talk to girls.
Yep.
Like that was really hard. Adding that into my routine, that was really, really hard.
Yep.
Same with, some of the other things, I suppose, going from maybe, 3 days of gym a week to 5 or 6.
Yep.
That was a little bit hard as well.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm not sure, but I was just thinking like, I think it might be better to add things rather than psychologically deal with losing things as well. So
true, good point.
Just because, as humans, we feel the loss way more than we feel the gain of something.
Yep.
I think that might be why both of us are saying that as well. It's almost like we're losing something rather than, so like, you have $100.
That might be, that's true. That might be a general thing. People, if you've got $100 and you say, well, you can either gain $500.
Yeah, it's like if you lose $10 from 100, so you're at 90. How bad does that feel versus you're at 100 and you get $10, so you're at 110. The loss to 90 just feels like it's quantitatively
worse,
intenser. Yeah,
it intensifies your despair of losing money. Another one of how to be disciplined. Don't wait for it to feel right. So there's an interesting one of how you actually go about this, because people will say, well, don't wait for it to feel right. Yeah, but I'm not disciplined enough to go and do that. So it was a bit of like a catch-22. But, improving your self-discipline means changing up your normal routine. So that means being uncomfortable and awkward when, it's going to be uncomfortable and awkward, but it's okay to go and do that because you should do it. I think it's more just simply just take action, definitely, on things that to be more disciplined, just go and do it. Almost to the same sense with courage, where, to be courageous, you probably have to start taking actions before you're courageous, so that in turn you do feel courageous even through the fear. Same thing with discipline. If you can note it down on goals and everything, and that will help to be able to reflect back on it. But in the end, day one, you just need to, if you're going to say you're going to wake up at 4:30 in the morning and go to the gym, then just make it happen. Just get up and do it, even if it doesn't feel right. Even if you wake up and you go, oh, I think I should sleep an hour more. Don't worry about it. You're not going to die. Go and do it. Look, it might be 50-50. Might that you not feel that great, but it might just be you telling yourself that. Either way, not enough of an excuse. Go and do it because you've put it down to go and do it. Obviously, there's extreme levels to this. So if there's some level of the extreme, then obviously don't go and do that. But in most instances, it's probably more you're trying to get yourself out of it, or the resistance, as Stephen Pressfield puts it, rather than anything actually being wrong.
Yeah, okay.
So another one, schedule breaks, treats, and rewards for yourself. So this is the opposite side of discipline. There's obviously using a little bit of rewards. I have never, ever rewarded myself for getting a goal, though. Have you ever rewarded yourself for that?
No.
Like, I can't
the act
even.
Of actually doing it is usually been enough.
The reward, yeah. I know people who will like treats, and you'll say, okay, I'm going to go gym for 2 weeks, and then I'm going to have a big meal, or I'm going to have a pizza, and all this. I get that. That's cool. That is a way to be disciplined, to go into it. I just don't agree with it too much, because then it puts the emphasis on you have to treat yourself to go and do these things. It's almost to the point that, like, imagine with sweets. Imagine if you started going, every time I go to the gym, I get to have a chocolate bar.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, the incentive is you're going to get a chocolate bar. And that's actually building bad behaviors, bad habits that you don't really want to do that. Then you're going to have to be disciplined to not go and do that. So while it can be done, I think it should be used sparingly.
Yeah, I think my sort of reasoning on that is similar to why I don't like motivation videos, because you're sort of relying on that thing to get you up and moving, and that's what's going to get you out and doing it.
Yep.
Same with the treat. That's what's going to get you out and going, like the treat. It's almost putting like too much emphasis on the thing before or the thing after, rather than what you're actually doing in the moment, I guess. And man, I came across a lot of motivation videos this week while researching.
Plenty.
I came across. I just saw it and I just went, what is this? Like, why would anyone find this useful? And it was 35 minutes of Jocko talking about discipline in, like, from all his different episodes. And someone's created a compilation. They've added music,
The boom, boom, boom. Yeah.
That sort of music. They've added people, stock footage of people running up hills, Jocko, looking intensely at the camera, and then other people paragliding or doing push-ups or whatnot. And I just went, 30 minutes of this. 30
minutes is a long time. 30 minutes is a long time.
How much motivation do you actually need? When is too much?
Yeah.
When is too much?
But see, and then this is the thing. So motivation will not build discipline. That's the thing. Motivation will not build discipline. No. It can get you going, but if you're relying on motivation, then good luck to you when the motivation isn't there.
Yeah,
right?
I think for me, and probably for you as well, is something like we'd rather try and get to a point where you don't need external factors to be the
to
thing
influence what you're doing.
Yeah, like you're doing it for whatever reason it is. Because I guess because you think it's the good thing to do in like the grand scheme of things. In the grand scheme of your life, going to the gym today is going to be better for me than if I didn't. That sort of thing.
And just thinking about from the treats and rewarding yourself, I think you should build, if you're gonna include it, but there should be a almost base foundation of discipline that is not related to that. So then you almost overlay with an extra layer. And what I mean by that is, say for gym goers who have pre-workouts and intra-workouts and all these sort of things, that's a little bit of that reward where you go to the gym and I get to have this drink which tastes nice and it's kind of sugary and it makes me buzz. It's got a bit of caffeine and tingle, all that sort of stuff.
Yep.
In a way, if you start building, because a lot of people do, they start going, oh, well, I'm going to the gym. I'm going to have 3 scoops, 4 scoops, like all these stuff. And you feel like all excited. What happens to those people when they go to the gym and don't have that? They kind of feel like it's I don't want to work out. I didn't have my pre-workout. That's the excuse it becomes, right? But if you have a base level of discipline where you can go, the example here is for me now, and it didn't used to be the case, but now when I go to the gym, if I forgot, say, my pre-workout or intra-workout mix, that's cool. Just have water and the day goes on. It's fine. That was just like an extra little extra 1%, 2% that would have been nice. But the base foundation still remains that you got to be disciplined to be going there, and it doesn't impact it. Yeah. So if it's the other way around, that's where you can get yourself in trouble.
Yeah, I think, do what works for you, obviously. If you find, having that Snickers bar gets you to the gym, having that Snickers bar makes you work that extra 5 hours at work, or lets you spend whatever time it is that's needed doing something you don't particularly enjoy, hell yeah, go for it. I would just go into it thinking, or maybe acknowledging this would be better if I didn't need this as well. Like if I just did this without having to trick my way into it in a way. Especially if it's using chocolates and sweets like that. If you're like me, it'll end badly.
It'll end badly. So that was a bit of self-discipline. What about some external discipline?
Okay, here's a little what would you do? Get a little insight into the mind of Juan. What level of discipline would you take with your kids, assuming it is fully your choice? So say you meet a lovely lady, you have some kids, unfortunately she passes away and you've got, a kid or two. And they're, let's just say the age of, 4 or 5-ish. What level of discipline would you take with them?
What discipline would I impose?
Yeah.
It wouldn't be as extreme as I think I would hold myself to. So the discipline levels. I mean, it's an interesting one to answer because there's all the myriad of things. Is it to do with food? Is it to do with how they shower? Is it to do with sports? I think I'd said discipline that they can then follow. And by that I mean is, I'm assuming at this point that we can have conversations and they're speaking and they're talking about the things they like. And I'll give you an example. This is probably the ways where I can sort of talk about it. Is say the little guy, let's say his name's Tom. Now Tom tells me, I really enjoy swimming. I want to get into swimming. And my thought process there would be, okay, you can get into swimming, but you need to be disciplined to go 3 times a week at this time to this time. Are you happy to do that? And then says, yes. And then I think I would impose at that point a bit of discipline and say, okay, cool, you can do that. But it means that if you don't do that, you can't stay at home and play games or do some other thing. And if you do go and do this 3 weeks and you go and do it for the 2 months or whatever that you're planning to do it, then at the end of the 2 months, we can go to a park or something to that extent. So provide both levels of that discipline.
Yeah.
But I would never be, I don't think I will ever be a person that will impose discipline to say, Tom, you're going to the pool, you're going 3 times.
Yeah.
And if you don't.
And he doesn't even like swimming.
He doesn't even like swimming. So yeah, I wouldn't, and that goes broadly to everything else. I wouldn't impose to say to the extreme, because sometimes you do have to impose some things of discipline of, you know, hey, you're going to have to go to sleep because of X, Y, Z reason, and giving them the why. But when it comes to things that are a little bit more in the middle, I'd be driven most for what they want to do and then imposing discipline around that to get them to learn around it.
Yeah, nice.
I don't know. How would you think about it?
Yeah, I think for me, it would, and obviously we're just, you know, coming up with things. When you have a kid, it's totally different. Your whole words changes, blah, 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 blah. I would probably go along the routes of, try and keep my mind open as much as possible. So I'm not, like you said, I don't want to, even though I really enjoyed soccer as a kid, I probably wouldn't want to be, you know, forcing them down that route, and be very wary of my own natural inclination to subtly, you know, start leaving soccer balls around
sway him on the way. Yep.
You know, start watching insane, like lots of soccer, even though I don't do that anymore, and, you know, start watching it all the time and things like that. But I would definitely have some strict rules on something. So, you know, no NFL or rugby, probably like while you're living in my house. That's
dang.
It's not going to happen.
Okay.
Just you know, mostly for, you know, head injury.
Mate,
concerns.
that's the best stuff. That's true though.
Okay.
It's an interesting one though. What if they came to you and said, I really enjoy, my friends are all playing rugby.
Yeah.
I'm playing rugby.
Yeah. I mean, you know, that would be a really tough call. I would probably still be saying no. I think, there's only certain ones that I'd really be like, long term, you just can't make this decision for yourself. And so I'm going to have to step in here and say, no, you're not allowed to do this. But, you know, if they hit 18 and then they still have this passion, they really wanted to do it, they've been, you know, sneaking off in the nights behind my back, playing rugby. Yeah. You know, there's not much I can do about that.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, that's one where I probably would be like psychologically, subtly being, you know, trying to dissuade them from doing it as well. Because there's just a couple of things like, I probably wouldn't be comfortable with.
Yeah,
But on the most part, you know, I'd probably, I guess, just fall into the patterns my dad and mom used for me, which was, you know, pretty liberal. They didn't really impose super strict restrictions here and then that I can remember. But I can't ever remember being like, you know, my dad was a tyrant. My mum was, you know, a witch because they didn't let me do things. I think for the most part, they were like, yep.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so, but... Yeah, as far as the swimming one though concerns, same thing. I'm not sure if I'd put on restrictions on like you have to go 3 times a week. Maybe I'd notice for myself and then have discussions with them. If they were or were not. But it's a hard one though.
Yeah, it's an interesting one.
All right, how about this one? Voluntary hardship. So, this was a quote from Marcus Aurelius, which was sort of along the lines of, don't complain with your whole being. So it's okay to complain about little things here and there, but it can't be like your whole being. You know, you can't, you know, I got in a car crash today or whatever. And then you just complain as in like, the end is here. This has severely affected my life for the rest of my life. And I guess, you know, how to balance forgiving yourself versus flogging yourself. So say you slip up, you did something wrong, and this, it's going back into self-discipline. How do you view as far as you slipped up, you did something you didn't want to do or you didn't think you'd do? What is your natural default? Do you start getting angry at yourself for being like, I messed up here, I shouldn't have done that, it's really bad, versus like, okay, this happens, you know, okay, Kyrin, you stuffed up here, let's make sure you're better next time. Where do you sort of fall on those lines?
Look, I'm going to call bullshit on anybody who's listening to this or ever says that they're some pristine god that never gets angry or anything.
Agreed.
So you're not a mere mortal. Don't listen to this podcast. Go away. But in reality, most people, right, when you don't do something right, you're going to be annoyed with yourself. And it depends where you are on your willpower scale, whatever it may be, you're going to react to it differently. Where I want to be reacting, and where I generally would, is in that sense of, maybe I breached my discipline. I went and did this thing that I shouldn't have, or I had too much sugar. You get a little bit annoyed with yourself. Maybe you'll feel a bit disappointed. Would you flog yourself? Sometimes I do in the sense of I'll go and train more. So that, like, the clear example, if I overeat in a particular day and I'm thinking, I ate a lot, like next morning, I'm going to go for a 2K run and I'm going to go and do extra swimming or an extra session just because I ate heaps. Now, that doesn't happen too often. It's much more free in the sense of, whatever, just eating more. That's cool. That's life. And that's, that's probably a pretty standard sort of reaction nowadays. The other one that makes me think is, life isn't about being harmonious always, or being in harmony. It's about how fast you can get yourself back into a balance of harmony when you're destabilized. So it's similar with the discipline side of things. So when discipline, sure, is at the moment that you don't do something, sure, you can say yourself, you're not disciplined. But it's almost even more to be disciplined to go and then do that the next time it swings around. So again, back to the definition of fitness. If you said to yourself, I've written it down, I'm going to go 7 times a week for whatever reason, and on the third day, you don't go, and let's say it's your fault, you just didn't want to go, you're tired, you didn't make your right choices. On the 4th day, discipline is to go, even though you missed the 3rd day. And even though you've missed the goal of 7 days, you go 6 days. And even at the end of that, you go, yep, you can't, not even you flog yourself, but you kind of forgive yourself to say, that 3rd day, things didn't go well. This is how I can improve it. But you got the 6 days run, like done out of the 7 days. Where it really gets bad and where you should, not should flog yourself, but you should really reconsider what you're doing, is if you get to the 3rd day, missed doing something, not disciplined to do it, and then you keep on doing that for the 4th day, 5th day, 6th day, 7th day, for whatever purpose, then I'd say, okay, that's the level where you have to start flogging yourself. That's probably my difference between forgiveness and discipline. If you can get back on the horse, forgive yourself for it, because that's an anomaly. Things happen. Cool. Move on. Good. Flog yourself if you just continue to do it wrong over and over and over again.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's a good rule of thumb. But yeah, and that's a good one. I would suggest anyone ever, like everyone ever, should try dieting for and when I say dieting, I would just mean strict calorie reduction.
Yes. Yep.
I think it's just such a interesting thing doing that, especially that feeling where you go on a bender, like you break your diet for one night and then the second night comes and you break it again. That I think it's just so good to realize that sort of you have that part in you that goes, fuck it, I don't care, I'm just gonna do it. And it's such a strange thing to confront when you actually do find that. And for me, that was probably one of the first times when I was dieting. I'd break it for whatever reason, and then I would just go, "Fuck it, I'm gonna
do it anyways."
I don't care.
Well, it reminds me of, and see, this is an interesting one where not that I forgave myself, nor did I flog myself. So it's an interesting one where the comp I did many years ago now. 2 weeks out, I was in Sydney. I was, with my partner at the time. We were holidaying. We'd already pre-planned before that.
Yeah.
And I was already on low calories, been dieting for 14 weeks. And we made a decision, not even that I had to, but we just made a decision, we're going to go to all-you-can-eat buffet. Why not? Let's just do it. And I just did not care. Just ate as much as I wanted to. Now, on the day, it wasn't actually too bad. I almost forgave myself because I thought, sure, I did. Okay. When I look back, I reckon I was going at it like 40% less than that. I was eating 5 out of 7 days, the exact things I should have been eating and training really well. But the other days I was kind of eating whatever. It wasn't even really apt for it. So that's maybe why I was able to forgive myself. If I was able to do it much more disciplined, I think I would have had to flog myself for that. So sometimes you can lose the discipline for it, and you get to choose whether you're going to be forgiving yourself and flogging yourself. But one good way of doing it is cutting calories for a while and see what your body gets like after 14 weeks, say, or something like that.
Yeah. It's so hard. It's so hard.
When And look, the other one I wanted to land on you is discipline. When is it bad?
When is it bad? When you take it too far. I think if you're being super strict and it's like a purely negative feeling, you're beating yourself up all the time because you're not doing something. You're beating other people up because they're not meeting your expectations and whatnot.
Yep.
Yeah, just like anything, if you take it too far, it
gets
too
much of anything is a bad thing. The other one is particularly when in my mind was, it's kind of discipline, but maybe it falls more in the routine side of things. But if you're too disciplined, so it made me think about it when you're talking about in the morning, you're disciplined to do the same thing over and over and over again. Or not over and over again, but just a set defined things that you know that you can keep moving through. One thing that it can do if you go too far is it suck the joy out of everyday life.
Yeah.
So the people who like clothing or like wearing things, when they think of Steve Jobs wearing his black top and his jeans, they'll go, man, that would be horrible. And if you force them to do it, it kind of takes away the joy of wearing clothes for them. So you also have to be careful it doesn't suck the joy out of something that you once enjoyed, I guess. So too much discipline of something can suck it if you don't agree with it, if you don't fall in line with it. If I was really disciplined about, I don't know, the way that I had to look into a camera or when I'm talking to people at work or something weird like that I just don't care about, and they were like, no, we have to go do this and do it in this exact way, I'd start losing joy and start getting frustrated about it, even if it was not even what was expected. You just had to do it for whatever reason. You got punished for it. You're going to go, well, I'm not going to stick with this. I'm just going to do something else. So that can be one. But the other one, so imagine if you, obviously it's probably not going to be a mere mortal, but maybe there's someone out there who this might happen to. If you're really rich, let's say, or really influential or powerful, something like discipline or routine will get you killed. And I say that in the sense of one of the things that they do in the like security guards and bodyguards and all this stuff is they try to change up the routine and the way you do day-to-day things, because the more you're pulled the same routine or disciplined to do something, the more it informs someone else who's trying to get you exactly what you're going to be doing or where you're going to be at any particular point in time. So this calls out to me. It was from the Alex Rider book, but I actually went and researched it back when I was younger about this sort of stuff and the tactics that they put to change slight things with routines of people who are really influential and powerful to ensure that if there's threats happening, no one's really quite sure on a day-to-day basis what those next steps are. So some discipline can be dangerous.
Yeah, that one depends. That one's more context dependent, I think.
Sure, yes,
because,
yes.
If they're in their guarded mansion and they have the same routine day in, day out, and they very rarely go out, yeah, I would say the risk of that is pretty low. It's like, oh,
they're going to get them in the poisoned food.
Yeah.
Poisoned food's going to get them.
Well, it's like, oh yeah, they'll be able to drop a bomb on your house whenever you want. Okay, well, they're going to do that anyway. Silly territory here.
Yeah.
The last one I would say is just from the bit of research I did for this topic, which was, sort of just going through Google, going through YouTube, two biggest search engines, and just picking out what people are talking about discipline, what are sort of like the most popular blogs or videos or whatever.
Yep.
And I found a lot of the advice too generic. I found it just, there's so many different ways of approaching it. You've listed some of them there, and I've listed some as well. But it, if I was going into it with a problem and I said, how do I get more discipline? I would find it really, really hard because there was so many different ways you could go about it. So I would say if you're in that position where it's just a general, you feel like you lack discipline in general, I would stick to one thing you think that needs improvement, like the most important one. Yep. And then research that one in particular. How do I get more sleep at night? How do I, have discipline to go to the gym? I think that would be more useful because you'll get more specific topics and more examples, and then you can sort of suit that to your own personality. Whereas the bland generic advice that they were giving out, I would have said, this probably isn't going to help anyone.
Yeah, well, I think it just strays much more because it is so broad. It's more in the motivational side of things. So that's where you find, that's if you type into Google or YouTube, disciplined whatever, it might come up with Jocko's 30-minute, and you'll watch it and you'll get motivated and everything. And maybe you'll do one or two things, but you haven't actually truly learned how to be disciplined. Yeah. You've just been motivated to go and do something, and then you'll just settle back into the whole rhythm because you don't have that base foundation of it.
Yeah, and pretty much all of them mixed up between the discipline to add something and the discipline to take away something. And, I would say those things are completely different and they're worth talking about in separate spheres.
Yep.
But all of them where it was sort of like, top 10 tips to have more discipline. Sort of 6 of them would be on one way of cutting out things and 4 of them would be on the other way. And I just said, well, that's not that helpful.
Yeah. So if someone had to, point blank, someone's asking you, gun to the head, they say, I want to be more disciplined.
Yeah. I would say, okay, I'm going to say, what are you least disciplined in? Whatever comes to your head first, the number one thing that you
they say everything.
And they say everything. I would press on them and say, pick one.
Okay, you try to get them down to a specific thing.
Pick one and then go research that on your own. Look at 5 different sources. Pick which one of them sounds like something that you could do and then attempt it.
Okay.
That would be what I say.
What I would say, so I'll go for a slightly different because I think that's fine. I can imagine someone trying to be like, no, I just want to be disciplined for everything, not just one thing. I think I'd go down the path of, well, discipline in its definition is almost the imposing of something of order, of something to be done, or else you get punished or rewarded in whatever method. When you think about the self-discipline, I think people think it's to do with, at the moment, something happens, so you're going to have self-discipline to do so. I think it's less that, and it's more, it's almost like there's 2 different people. There's the person who wrote or said what they wanted to do, and then there's a person at that exact moment that's experiencing it. And it's having go and have the ability to, whichever way it is, written, digital, record an audio for yourself, whatever it may be. So when those moments hit, you've got the discipline of yourself in another state that you can bring into that particular moment.
Yeah, nice.
So,
very good, very good. That was a really good sum up.
Good.
I love that at the end. There's one thing I'm just going to quickly sneak in here before we finish. And that's one of the things I read from the book Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman. And he was talking about when he was in Israel and the fighter jet pilots, they were training new recruits.
Yep.
And they were having these problems where he's saying, I'm really good at disciplining people, but I can't get people motivated. The shit ones, it was the other way. He was able to get the shit ones to perform better, but wasn't able to get the good people to keep performing to new heights.
Yeah, okay.
So it's sort of like a baseline level. They go for a flight, and let's just say there's 100 points you can get from it, and let's say the mean is 50. If someone got a score of 20, a really bad score, they would berate them, just abuse them, whatever.
Until it got to 50.
And then their next flight would generally be an improvement, getting closer to 50.
Yep.
Whereas if someone the opposite way got a score of 80, really good, nothing they could do could keep them at that same level. And then their next flight would usually be shit as well.
Yeah, okay.
And so it was this thing called regression to the mean. So it's basically, if you've got a sort of a pool of people, they're all doing things, you're going to have these natural fluctuations where someone will do something really good, but then the next time it'll drop back down.
Yep.
And same, if they do really bad, they'll sort of drop back up. But because they were just focusing on the good aspect of what they can control, they're an instructor, so would they want the good results? They're obviously not that interested in the bad ones. So it felt like they were doing something when they were berating these people, disciplining them.
Yeah, okay.
And then the next result would be good. And they're like, yes, it worked.
It worked, yeah.
Calling this guy, 1,000 different swear words and whatnot, making him feel like shit. It was good.
Yep.
Whereas I had no effect on the guy who did really good and then went back down. Sort of nothing to do with me. So he was finding the general takeaway from that is just because you're disciplining someone and the next time they perform better, it might not actually even be because of your discipline. It's just because of this general rule that if you do really shit in a certain thing, you'll regress back to the mean. Now, obviously, this is sort of for pools of people.
Yeah.
And not, the always underachiever versus the super overachiever.
Yep.
But it's more just, if you've got a lot of people and they're doing a sort of standardized thing, don't be disciplining them. Or try disciplining them, see if it works. Also try not disciplining them,
see what happens. Works. Yeah,
because he was basically saying these guys were operating under the assumption they were doing so much work, they were disciplining these guys,
but really it could have been nothing, or just naturally regression to the mean.
It was nothing doing.
Yeah. See, it's interesting. And you saying that, it makes me think about Okay, it is regression to the mean. Understandable. What if you move the mean artificially? Would that change things? So I don't know. That'd be an interesting thing. It makes me want to have a bit of a Google around that. But anyways, that has been
Good.
discipline today for 106.
Very good. Very good.
Now, as you can see on the video, and if you're not seeing us on the video, go and see the video. We're looking a little bit sharper. I'm not as sharp as Kyrin right now. I've got a bit of a tie, but if you may be able to tell, that was Kyrin's old tie that he was wearing in the previous themed episode.
That's true.
Now, why are we wearing this, Kyrin? Are we going to reveal a little bit of information?
No, I think
the next one's going to be
more.
all right. One more. So, folks, tune in for the next episode. That's what I'm going to say.
The next themed episode. We should say.
Next themed episode, which will be
109.
109. Okay, 109.
It'll be about E. I'm not really sure what yet.
Ooh, E. Dang. Okay, that'll be an interesting one. Look, I'm going to keep it short. Mere_mortals_media for Instagram, YouTube, Mere Mortals Podcast, Mere Mortals everywhere on audio. We're now probably on heaps of other podcast audio casts as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's not even... Go to those if you were listening to us. You really loved us. You're like, why aren't they on iHeartRadio?
We're now there. We're now there. We're everywhere. We're absolutely everywhere. So I've got nothing else, Kyrin.
No.
That's it. One out.
Kyrin out. Ooh. Oh.